Help me reach 2,000 subscribers. When Megan told me she was going on a girls' trip, I didn't question it. After all, she'd been distant for months, short answers, late nights at work, and a constant preoccupation with her phone. She'd laugh at texts, turn her screen away and tell me, "You're overthinking, Ryan." So when she announced that she and her friends were heading to the coast for the weekend, I smiled and said, "You deserve a break." I meant it too. Least I thought I did. The first night she left, the house felt heavier than usual. I kept checking my phone, half expecting her to message, but all I got were brief replies. "Just arrived." "Dinner time." Then silence. By midnight, I scrolled through old photos. Us on our wedding day, her laugh in sunlight, the way she looked at me before life got complicated. Somewhere between nostalgia and exhaustion, I started wondering if this trip was really about friendship or something else. The next morning, I made coffee and decided to distract myself by cleaning the guest room. It was the one space Megan used to store her suitcases and travel gear. As I opened the closet, her spare phone, one I thought she'd lost, slipped from a bag and hit the floor. I froze. The screen was cracked but still lit up. A string of unread notifications blinked across it. Messages from someone named T. My hands shook as I tapped the first message. T. Can't wait to finally have you to myself. No more pretending. Megan. I told him it's just a girl's trip. He totally bought it. I read it twice, 3 times. My chest went cold. The date was from yesterday, right before she'd left. For a long moment I just stood there, phone in hand, the sound of the ticking clock echoing in the silence. I wasn't the kind of man who yelled or broke things. I'd always believed trust was built through calm understanding. But in that moment, understanding felt like the most painful thing in the world. I didn't call her. I didn't text. Instead, I quietly packed a small overnight bag and drove to the cabin we owned near the lake, the one she thought I rarely used. While she was away on her trip, I decided to prepare something of my own. Something that would show her exactly what truth looks like when it finally comes home. When I arrived at the cabin, the air was crisp, the lake reflecting the late afternoon sun like a mirror. I set down my bag and walked inside, careful not to make any noise. The place was quiet, untouched for months, just the way I liked it. But today it wouldn't remain quiet for long. I retrieved the hidden camera we'd installed months ago, one of those small, discreet devices no one notices. It wasn't for spying on her, it had always been for security, but now it would serve a different purpose. I reviewed the footage from the past year, focusing on moments I'd always dismissed as normal behavior. The first clip made my stomach twist. Megan laughing a little too loudly with someone at the gym, lingering touches on his arm, whispered conversations that ended the moment I walked into the room. The next clip showed her leaving late at night from a cafe, smiling as she texted him. Piece by piece, the picture became clear. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had trusted with my life, had been living a secret parallel world. But the final clip, that was the one that changed everything. The camera caught her arriving at the hotel where she said she'd be with friends. She smiled, checked in, then walked down the hallway to a suite. Inside, someone was waiting for her. A man I'd never seen in person, but whose presence radiated betrayal. She paused for a second, perhaps thinking of me, before closing the door behind her. I didn't feel anger at first. I felt clarity. All the doubts, the nagging suspicions, the small moments I'd questioned in my gut, they were real. And yet I also realized I had a choice. I could explode, confront her in anger, ruin everything in a storm of shouting and accusations. Or I could show her what her actions meant without saying a word. I decided on the latter. The next morning I returned home, making sure everything was in its place. Nothing suspicious, nothing hasty. Megan called, asking if I'd seen the sunrise over the lake, laughing as if the weekend had been perfect. I smiled calmly and said, "Yes, it was beautiful. I hope you enjoyed your trip too." She didn't notice the undercurrent in my tone, the weight of what I knew and what she didn't. That evening she came home expecting the same quiet, normal life. But as she opened the door she froze. In the living room she found a single note on the coffee table. "Truth waits for no one. Check your phone." Her heart raced when she picked it up. Her phone, which I hadn't touched since it fell from her bag, had a new message displayed on the screen. One she hadn't sent. Megan stared at the message, her face paling. The text was simple, yet devastating. I saw everything. Every laugh, every touch, every lie. You're home now, but the truth is already waiting. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the footage I had saved to a secure folder on the phone. Every secret moment, every betrayal, captured in crystal clarity. I didn't need to say a word. Her own eyes told me what I already knew. Guilt, fear, and the sudden realization that I had always known more than she imagined. For a moment she just stood there, frozen, the weight of her actions pressing down on her. I watched silently from the doorway, my arms crossed but my voice calm. You went on your trip thinking you were free, I said softly. But freedom isn't escaping consequences. Megan dropped the phone onto the couch and sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply walked over and sat across from her, letting the silence fill the room. This wasn't about revenge, it was about realization, the kind that comes only when someone finally faces the truth of their choices. She looked up after a long pause, eyes glassy. Ryan. She began, but no words could undo what had been done. I shook my head gently. No explanations. No excuses. Just honesty from now on or nothing at all. The next few days were quiet. Megan didn't leave, didn't argue, didn't pretend everything was fine. She simply existed in the shadow of her own decisions. And for the first time in months I felt a strange sense of peace. Not triumph, not joy, just clarity. I knew where I stood, and I knew she understood exactly what she had lost. Eventually she spoke. I didn't think you'd ever find out. I nodded. I always knew. You just needed to see that the truth doesn't wait. It wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about awakening. And as I watched her absorb that reality, I realized that the trip she thought would be an escape had become a turning point, for both of us. By the time the week ended, Megan's perspective had shifted. She stopped hiding, stopped lying, and started facing the life she had risked losing. We didn't solve everything immediately, but the balance had returned. Honesty replaced secrets, and while the journey ahead would be difficult, at least it was real. Sometimes it only takes a small trip, a few hidden moments, and a single revelation to change everything. And when the truth finally comes home, there's no pretending, no escaping, and no choice but to face it.